So, I'm probably one of the worst PowerPoint people because the PowerPoint kind of keeps me on track a little bit, but it also detracts from um, kind of me talking from my heart. And that's what I'm going to just talk for just a few minutes about, what's going on with me, chiropractic, and so forth and so on. Just off the cuff is, and I've been a practitioner for, I don't know, 24, 25 years at this point. And I started, in a engineering mindset. That's what I have a degree in, and I fell passionately in love with upper cervical work. And with all my due diligence, I was certified in a couple of the methods. And when I got to that place, just like every other place that I've been to, it's just the nature of me, and I'm sure you, otherwise you wouldn't be on here, is that curiosity. Well, the curiosity, the expression curiosity killed the cat. That curiosity could kill you because I went out on a limb and asked a question is of how do I get a anterior atlas to move a posterior pelvis? Okay, it was a fair question because as an engineer, I looked at big things versus little things. Mack truck, Volkswagen, who's going to win? I mean, it's a very simple thing. So if you look at the smallest bone in the spine, the atlas, and you look down below, and the cool thing about the technique that I was doing is they had a machine that I think advanced was the anatometer is to a posture IQ is because we were looking at pelvises. Dr. Gregory was looking at pelvises. He knew the importance of them, and looked at pelvic rotation and pelvic tilt. And that question created the conversation where I needed to bridge the atlas to the pelvis. And where I stand now is I look at, basically toe to head, so to speak. And I look at them in pieces so that I can have conversations like, hey, the legs are doing this, the pelvis is doing that, the spine is doing this, the shoulders are doing that, the neck is doing this, the head is doing that. And then the next conversation became, how did these things start working together? So I spent basically the first 15 years of my life in chiropractic trying to understand and master everybody else's stuff. And it brought me to a questions. And I walked down this trail of looking at the whole human body as one thing. And that's really what I do now. We're going to have a conversation tonight about how to adjust, but the biomechanics was the first question is how does this thing work? Okay. And it brought me through words like tensegrity, release, looking at the whole cervical spine because the fascial system connects to, all the way to the bottom to the top. And it took me out of just a bone out of place model to a living system of when the body gets traumatized, the body goes ahead and neurologically responds. So some of the things that we see in spines and in X-rays and people when they're standing in front of us, their posture, we're seeing not just the damage that's happened to them, we're seeing a full story of the damage that's happened to them, the compensation of it, them in a gravitational field of it compressing itself, their energetic state. Are they eating Twinkies or are they taking care of themselves? Okay, that's is the body compressing. And the conversation tonight is not about those biomechanics, but that was basically 9 years, is to start understanding, once you have the rules and you understand how to play to some extent. I told the patient the other day is that I'm in a place that I can have a nice hot conversation with their nervous system to see how their structure wants to be released more towards, an orthogonal or, a higher tensegral volume, and lifting it up and back up to center where it's strong and centered and balanced and symmetrical. And structure dictates function. Structure dictates function. Okay. So I look at human beings as as living systems, and I see where it's been damaged. I see where there are weaknesses in the structures. I see what things need my help. Okay, the things that are weak today need help today. All right. I found that you can't fix anybody. I found that you can support people and learn, have a great relationship with a patient's nervous system and see what they want and start understanding. Um, I stopped pushing a bone into place because I said it's here and I want it to go there. And I started putting my hands on people and feeling their bodies respond in ways that are profound for me. I mean, they just blow me away when I'm on like that, where you can put your hand on somebody and feel them locked up and feel their bodies give way, where their nervous system that is in hyperdrive, sympathetic overload. Okay. I mean, just think about that. Think about a person standing up, you standing up, all bent up, the integration of the nervous system and the myofascial system to make that happen. It's a massive amount of energy, and it's a massive amount of locking up. Okay, it's three-dimensional through the whole body, and you all feel it. We all feel it. Okay, and we all see it in our patients. This hurts, that hurts. This is tight. This can't move. I got tension over there. This nerve is being entrapped, compression. I started looking at people as three-dimensional waves that have been traumatized, and they're responding as innate intelligence is doing the best that it can with the energetic state that's in that system. And our job is to go ahead and try to be able to learn how to understand how to unwind it, support it, and then teach the patient how to do the same while they're in between seeing you. Okay. So QSM3 uses a tensegrel model. I use a tensegrel model. We're the only system in chiropractic that does that. There's people that talk about tensegrity, but they don't use a tensegrel model, meaning how to expand the system in a measurable way. It's just like, people say the body's tensegrel. That's not meaning they're using the system. Okay. So tonight is a conversation on, and it's tough to do this. It's a conversation on how do we go ahead and try to help that tensegrel system that really it's like a big old tire or a big old balloon that's got holes in it in different places, and each patient comes in and it's got little different holes and they're leaking. And the body, you could see the spine, the pelvis, the legs, the head, the neck, the shoulders, everything kind of bending and collapsing while this nervous system inside is trying to hold it upright. Okay. So we see this breakdown, and if we can learn how to lift it and restore it, okay, that's the name of the game, and that starts with understanding biomechanics, and it then begins with this conversation tonight, okay, which is a short conversation on how to expand something, because this is the adjustment. It's hard to talk about this in PowerPoint, but I want to start by getting your guys' minds in kind of a conversation so we can start talking, further and further with us. Okay. Any questions right now? I know that was a long conversation there. Get rid of this. Trying to get this. Okay, good. Okay. So when I look at this, and you look at this, the first thing that all of us do, including me, is you notice that just in that lumbar spine, that nice little wave right in there, don't you? Everybody sees that right off the bat, don't you? Right, and then if you look a little further, you see that right hip is low, okay? There's a right marker on that right bottom there. All right, and you see that right shoulder is low, and you see that the neck is turning back a little bit, and if it's big enough, you can see that the head is turning back. If you look at the mastoids, if you want to look at the atlas, I mean, if you want to blow it up, you could see those the C1 as well, and look at the atlas plane line. But you could see that the mastoid on the left side is a little bit lower. So that conversation of just noticing those things, the next conversation says, okay, so what does that mean? Okay, So there's normals to the human body when it gets traumatized, and this person is not in a normal position because the shoulder and the pelvis are low on the same side there, and there is right weight on this person. So the person is falling out to the right side, and the postural muscles are not responding properly, and the head and neck are starting to have to bend back. And they're made to do that to bring the eyes up on horizontal, but they're not made to do that for posture. So the posture is under stress, and that starts the conversation of, hey, this is a living system, okay? Because those muscles are not doing what they're supposed to do, and this person has had an injury down low, the person has to activate its muscles right off the bat, and muscles are activated so this person doesn't fall over, okay? Which creates bending in the body, and once you hear the word bend versus straight, bend means lower to the ground, shorter distance from end to end. So now we have a conversation where we can look at the human body and say structure dictates function, and we could apply it to this conversation of the human body losing its tensegrel volume once it's been damaged, and now once it's tried to restore itself up on vertical, okay? And it has a pattern, okay? Every patient that you see has a pattern, okay? And some patterns change, okay? When I say some patterns change, it's because tears in the body are different than things that are just stuck in place, okay? So life, when you get somebody and you look at their misalignment, they are a bunch of traumas that have micro-torn the fascial system, the soft tissue system, okay? And it has also just kind of jammed stuff up where they haven't gotten torn, they've just gotten stuck. So when you release those stuck things, those patterns can change. The goal is to find the pattern, okay? And then the goal is to find the pattern's path out, okay? And when I say out, it's to release it upward and outward, okay? Because what I found is that if we release the person upward, okay, then guess what happens? It's free. And once it's free, the nervous system can start helping you bring it to center, or you can help it bring it to center. But now it's free to do that. Okay, so it can't go to center without opening and releasing itself. Okay, so looking at these patterns and having this conversation is a beautiful thing that helps us towards the conversation of why we do what we do. Okay, so really, what is the problem? The problem is that the body is trying to hold itself upright. Okay, and that creates this neuromyofascial lock. Okay, I just call it the neuro lock. Okay, sometimes I just call it the lock. Okay, and if you look at this picture and you see that if you look at L5, L4 in the pelvis and L3, they're all leaning out to the right, but you look at L2 and L1 and then T12, look at it bending back to the left. So why is it doing that? Because the muscles, I'm going to ask that you turn your mics off, please. Thank you. So how is it that, say, L1 and T12 there, T11, are tilting over to the left-hand side? Because those muscles on that side, the muscles that are attached to the ribs, the muscles that are attached to that left pelvis that are running up there, the QL, all those guys are activating, and they're doing a great job by pulling the whole body upright, okay? But what does that do, okay? That puts the person upright so they don't fall over, which is great, okay? But now we start a cycle of we start stabilizing a body instead of creating flexibility. So we sacrifice our flexibility for our stability, okay? And the human body begins the cycle of shortening, closer to the earth, collapsing, okay, breaking down, losing its flexibility, and it's locking up, and it starts living in this tension and compression in a three-dimensional way in the human body. And at the end of the game, it's as simple as this, that if you take a system that should be blood flowing and energy flowing and lymph flowing and oxygen flowing, okay, and then all the stuff that's supposed to be going out should be flowing at a certain rate, and you compress it so you create an increased density inside the human body, you become the number one cause of degenerative disease anywhere. It's undisputed. Okay? So it's a sickness, and it's right there in front of us. And we're not a spine, guys. Chiropractic is not about the spine. It may have started that way, but it's about posture. It's about structure. So if you use the word structure, you can't just say spine. It's head to toe. Okay? So this nervous system has this neurologic pattern to create balance, least energetic exposure, and it's a global tension and compression syndrome. Okay, so you can look at things that are lower to the ground, like that right hip and downward, it's in compression. But that left side that's trying to hold it up, that's where the wires are trying to hold. That's in tension. Okay, and those are different things and different symptomatic conversations for another day. Okay, but there's so much information here, more than L5 or L3 and the degeneration and the OA and the lack of the curve and there's no motion and it's hot and the leg is short. There's a living system trying to stand up, and when we start having a conversation about structure and function in a gravitational field over time, then we step into an arena that, especially if we start using the Tensigro model, okay, then we step into an arena that becomes a global conversation, okay, in multiple ways, global from head to toe and global from this planet, okay. Where am I? Here we go. All right, so what do I touch? Okay, so I used to touch C1. Okay, now I touch C0 to C7. Okay, and I do that, okay, because the fascial system, which is what I want to change, okay, because that's the movable system. The bones don't move, okay, it's the fascia that moves. All right, bones, you put it on a table, they don't move, okay, but muscles move, fascia moves, okay, that's the nervous systems are integrated into them, so they move, okay, all right. So we want to take this collapsing system, twisting system, bending system with all the nuts and bolts and all the information that we know from head to toe, and we want to be able to try to release it. And what I found is that the insertions from the pelvis, they don't go up to C1 directly, they go to C7 directly, and you get a much better release there. All right. So what I found is that you have this access up top, and the best place to start releasing everything became not just C1 for me, but C0 all the way down to C7. Okay, basically, 7, 8 piano keys. All right, and my purpose on all of them is to release them beyond where they are today. Okay, if you understand that person is standing up, and when you lay them down in side posture, you take them a little bit out of the gravitational field in an axial load. Once you take that out, okay, you help the person relax a little bit, because that nervous system locked up is more than you can push, okay? So what we want to do, and the purpose of what we want to do, is we want to be able to release that system, that neurologic lock, so that the person can pop up and be flexible as much as possible. I tell my patients it's like having a cast on your arm, and I want to take that cast off. Okay? I want to take that cast off. The human body is made to be in motion. Okay? It's so cool if you look at chiropractic, how vast it is. I used to like the class that I was the least interested in was motion palpation. It is the most interesting thing for me now. Because all I want to do is create motion back into the system because it's made to move. Okay? The first thing to do is to unstick it. Okay? You have to unstick it. All right? And you have to release it, that lock, and then beyond that lock, you create motion. Any questions? Okay. So that's our purpose. Okay? And if you look at C1 to C7, the cervicals, okay, it's just like an octave on a piano. There's seven keys to an octave. It's kind of cool. I just started up a piano teacher, and I said to her, what I'm going to try to do is, and I showed her this picture because I brought my computer out. I said, yeah, I'm writing a PowerPoint, and this is what I do is I imagine those keys that are stuck. if you were a technician, you were coming to fix it, you would unstick those keys. Well, imagine if those keys were three-dimensional, moving in three ways. That's the cervical spine. It can move all over the place, up, down, forward, backward. Okay? And our purpose is to create fixation to motion, overcome the sympathetics, and reset the pattern. Yeah, head to toe, globally. Okay? And that's the game. And it's so important that you hold that in your mind, because I always used to wonder, what is it that I really do? And it's as simple as that, as to be able to take C1 and feel where it's tight, and now feel that you just moved it. It doesn't mean that it's, floating in the wind, but you moved it. You felt it move. Okay? You leaned against it and it didn't move, and then it did. It's that simple. That's what I focus on. I'm telling you, it's like I never watch my adjustment with my eyes. I always turn my ear. It's almost like I'm trying to pick a safe, like, I'm a safe cracker, and I'm listening for that click motion. Okay? And I do. I listen for the connection between my mass, my piezoform, their tension, that pathway, and its release. That was good. Okay. So that's the game right there. Okay. And to do that, I realized that patient placement was probably one of the most important things that could help me facilitate me taking that person to that place of releasing their nervous system from the chain, the handcuff that it's in. Okay. So the cool thing about the neck is, why I see it's the neck is, well, first of all, if you want to lift something, you do it from the top, and there you go. Well, then you can say, well, why don't you do it from the head? Because the head doesn't give you any motion. It's a solid sphere. Okay. So with placement, we create this long span between the head and the neck. And I put the tip of the ear. I tell my patient, listen, the top of your ear, the tip of it, I want it to touch just the bottom of the little foam piece or the little piece of paper that's laying on the headrest. Okay. And I let the patient just lay in their neutral position. Okay. And then I move them a little bit so that their shoulder that they're laying on is pushed downward. Okay. Because I want to open that stand. When I say downward, okay. And when I do that with patients, I say, can you move your shoulder down? Because I don't like pushing patients. I just can't do it anymore. I'll touch their shoulder and I said, can you move this down? And I'll push that down towards their hip. Most people push it backwards. Okay. You don't want it backwards. You want their shoulders to be in a natural neutral plane, but you want that shoulder that's below. Everybody crunches it up towards their ear. And what that does is it takes them out of their pattern, and it also jams up the span between C7 and C0. And you need a long span. Okay, the longer the span, okay, the easier things move, okay? Take a cinder block, it's a short span, okay? Take something long and it's much more flexible, okay? So the placement of the block of the headpiece on the head and the shoulder down create a long span and allows the patient, and especially what it does is, it creates a vulnerability, because you have to be able to fatigue out the nervous system. You have to put it into a place where it can't hold that up. And if you're standing above and you bring that shoulder down and you've got a nice span and you start pushing on that thing, it's got to give. Okay? And believe me, it's going to do everything that it can not to give. Okay? So I help people find their natural relaxed bottom. Okay? And I take my thumb And I'll do this at the class. And I did this at the class. It was amazing how people would just take their thumb and they would start jabbing on people. Okay? Be gentle with people. You don't want to just jack up the nervous system. You want to relax the nervous system. It's the guy that you need to overcome. Make friends with it. Okay? Don't make an enemy with it. All right? So take your thumb and feel the range of motion. You'll also feel how tight that person is. Okay? Every patient is different. Every patient moves to a certain place. Not everybody goes to zero. Okay? So everybody has the same pathways of motion, everyone. And every one of you should know those pathways. You should be able to take somebody and move C7, C5, C6, C4, C3, C2, C1, and the head, you should be able to move them flexion extension in the skull versus C7 that doesn't have that. You should be able to know those ranges of motion like nobody's business, because not only do you have to do that with your thumb, and they're all different because C7 has a different range of motion than C1 does, different line of drive, different angle, different plane. Look at the curve if it has that curve, and look at the disc plane. Okay, so you need to know those. You need to be able to feel them with your thumb, and then you need to be able to take the patient to its end, and then you need to be able to take your piezoform along that path also. Okay, so every person has the same pathway of motion, but every person has a different range of motion. So the beauty is the map is there. Everybody's the same, okay? But everybody's jammed up a little bit differently, okay? So one of the things that is very important, I tell my patients this before, I adjust them the first time. I said, listen, I'm going to say relax to you 1,000 times, okay? It's not that you're not relaxing, but I want to keep reminding you because I need to take you to the end. If I don't take you to the end, I can't take you further. Okay, and my goal to today is to release this. Okay, so I'm constantly resetting the patient over and over and over and over. Okay, drill, 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 and it gives reset. Drill, 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 it gives reset. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so if you do that, okay, and you can take the person to their end range of motion. Okay, you take a cast off somebody and you start opening somebody's arm, it's going to go to a certain point. If you could take it to that end point, then you can make this happen very easily, that you can change every single patient in your practice. That doesn't mean they'll come back, but you can change everybody. Okay. So the goal is to take it beyond, okay, where it is. And there's two ways to do that with the neck, okay? You can do it with your mass, okay, where, you're pushing against a car and all of a sudden it gives, okay? There's no depth with that one. Or you could take it and you can jam right through it and use a lot of depth. Like you all have seen BJ's picture where the person bounces off the table. Power is power, man. That guy changed nervous system. He put a lot of power into the nervous system. He changed a lot of powers, a lot of patterns. Okay. My way that I would like to do it is without depth. Okay, because I found that once you excite the nervous system, I call it my last time rule. Okay, they're done for the day. They're not going to let you touch them. Okay. Okay. So everybody's got these similar planes of motion. Everybody's got these different ranges of motion. Okay. And the goal is to try to be able to stretch that to the limit that you can for that person in a nice way. In a nice way. Okay. So that's the place that you want to hold in your head. Okay. And it's simple. Okay. So we go ahead and we take this placement and we place the person to the end. You know the ranges of motion. You lay them down, ask the patient to relax, take your thumb. I take my superior hand and I place it on the person's head. I take my thumb and I push it into their neck and I start working it. And all of a sudden and I go, okay, there you go, let it go, let it go. I wiggle the people in their shoulders and just shake them a little bit, just get them to relax. Some people you actually need to end up talking to them. I don't like to talk while I'm adjusting, but if I'm in the groove and somebody won't let go and I start talking to them, they'll a lot of times they're not paying attention. Okay, you're distracting them. All right. So you got to get them stretched beyond the lock. You want to be able to use power without force. You don't want to excite the nervous system. And how do you do that? It's 100%, I shouldn't say that, 99% with your mass, not with your arms. Nothing with your arms. Like you're not going to do anything with your arms. And you should practice that. Not doing anything with your arms except they're touching the patient. But they do not engage at all. They are relaxed, but they are confident. Yep. Okay. All right. So here's like the last or second to last slide or something like that. So let me tell me, this is the way I'm going to have you I'm going to teach you is how to create this mass without your arms. Because if you can do that, I'm going to tell you why this happened with me. It's an amazing thing and you hear this because it's the only way that I learn is that I have to have some breakdown. One of my mentors said to me, and you all have heard this if you hang around me enough, is you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. So I had a major breakdown in in my health in March, and I was really hurting in multiple joints, blah 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 blah, my hands, my shoulders, and I couldn't touch people. I couldn't just blast through them and just go boom 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 boom. I couldn't do that, so I had to slow down. I had to lighten up, okay, and I had to figure out how to create power, okay, without hurting myself. So this is where I am today. Okay, and it saves me. It saves me. It's much easier on my body, which means it's easier on them, and it works so much better. So you have to have a breakdown with a breakthrough. So this is one of the lessons that I'm going to be teaching at the class in November is how to create this arc power. Okay, is really using your body, truly engaging your body, not just saying I'm using my mass, but really not using your arms. Okay, at least 99% of the time. Okay, so the first thing that happens is you get that contact leg forward. Okay, and it's comfortable. And when you put that leg forward, okay, of that contact leg, okay, then so the contact leg is that. So I adjust with my right hand is my right leg goes forward. Okay, so the contact leg. That's what I mean by that. All right. So you move it forward, and you don't just step forward where the hip moves forward anterior, but the hip actually drops down. Okay? And when you do that, you'll feel that you will fall back on your heels. Okay? And you're going to practice rolling from your heels up onto the balls of your feet. And at some point, you're going to feel that there's the bottom of the arc, which is on the heel, there's a top of the arc, and then there's a bottom of the arc on the other side. Okay? So you should be able to make contact where your pisiform just touches the patient's tension, okay, is at the top of the arc. Okay? I don't know why I called that mass arc height. I don't know. No. So that's where my mass is on top. It's at the high point of the arc, and that's where that pisiform makes contact. And you can see the rest of the story. I mean, all you have to do is keep moving your body, okay? Follow the plane of motion and allow that pisiform to gently just grab that tension line, not with depth, okay? Because you've already grabbed it enough to hook it and move through that path of motion, and the thing will release. And the cool thing that it is, it's the same motion that if you were pushing a brick on a table and you pushed, no depth, you leaned, and it gave. That's the deal with this. There's no depth to your body. Okay? It is you are just increasing the tension, and the piezoform is actually moving backward in your hand as your hand moves forward. And then it gives. Okay? So there's some art to this. There is some release at the end to this that when somebody is jammed up is the 1% of what do you have to do with your arms and hands and the motion to that. That's for another day. But this arc is so easy for you to practice that you don't engage your arms at all. Is bring yourself down where you fall back on your heels and roll up on top of your arc, and then go ahead and bring your hands together and touch the patient. And then you'll know where you have to be forward, backward, because it's right at that point, at that top of the arc, you should probably be pretty much on top of the person as well, and your piezoform just touches them. Okay? If you're too low, your legs are too far apart, right and left. Okay? If you're too high, your legs are too close, that would help you out. You can open your stance that way, sideways, to help you modulate that. But when you're on the top of the arc, from that heel position as you roll up, that is the place where you go ahead and you bring your hands, and now you know where your positioning is. And then you go ahead and you put your hands together, and then you start back in that position, and you come up, and then you make contact, and guess what you start doing? You start rolling your piezoform, not engaging too deep, but just enough to grab what's going on. And then all of a sudden, as you start turning that corner, you'll start going downward. Okay? And look it's so small that you have to move. Why? It just okay, listen to this. You don't need to move it far because you've already taken it to the limit in your patient placement. So it is no different than pushing a car, getting your mass against it, and all of a sudden it gives. That's all it has to do is give. Okay? I used to be so involved with increasing motion in big depths to it. Okay? If you can do this part of it and overcome C1 to C7, overcome their motion to any degree in some way, shape or fashion, that goes for me too. Okay? Some people I can't get that today. I could only get it so far. Okay? I'm telling you. But if you can create some motion, which this will do for you, you'll change your practice. People will refer to you. Seriously. People will actually refer to you that are in your practice. Yeah, it's a cool concept. It's, think about that. I used to think about it. Okay. Anyway, questions?
Oh.
Yeah, buddy.
Have you tried doing this with the other arm yet?
No, I haven't done that. No. I'm going righty, buddy, all the way.
Okay.
I'm taking her home righty. Yeah, man, why not? It's my hand it's the way it's made to be. It's just made to be that way. I go with the flow. The flow is the right hand goes. If I put my left hand, it doesn't feel right. I go with the flow, man. So anyway, look at it. Every day, every patient in the beginning, it's like Groundhog Day. If you remember the movie, it's this, you wake up and it's this, when you go to a new patient or you start the day, I do the same thing on every person. It just happens a little faster because I'm warmed up. If you don't if you don't start this cycle, okay, of finding your mass arc height and then where you connect at the top and putting your piezoform down. And then guess what I do when I put my piezoform down? I start moving my hand around a little bit and start rolling it. Guess what I think I'm doing? I'm learning what that patient is about. Where's the tension? Where's the tension lines? Where do I position myself? Okay. And then all of a sudden, I'm all connected in. I got my mass arc. I'm rolling. I know the patient. I got my body in the right position. I'm going to go after C1 first. I'm going to go after C7. That's what I do. I go after C1 or C7 first, whatever's closest. Okay. But if C1 doesn't want to move, I go move C7. Okay. Reposition, get them to relax. All together, everything moving, no arms. How do you know you're not using your arms? Is that you tuck your arms in, just make them snug a little bit, especially your contact arm, and make sure it stays there all the way through the adjustment, and you don't push out with it. That's how you know you won't be using your arms. Relax your hands. Relaxed but confident. Okay.
Russell?
Yeah, brother.
Can we go back to, just want to understand, when you said that your legs, when you drop down with your legs,
Yeah.
isn't that when you need to get your contact as you're dropping down? Isn't that when there's more of a contact onto the patient?
I do something and I learn something, and then I start thinking about it. Where am I in it? And sometimes when I fall back on my heels and I lean forward, boom, I'm right there, and I'm lazy and I don't move forward or backward. I just go and grab it and bring it around the arc. Okay, but most of the time I like to be on top of it. It's easier on me.
So what I was asking, what's the purpose of settling back with your legs? I'm looking at the notes here.
Settling back is you're going to create an arc. Okay, you're going to.
But while you're doing that, you have your hands near the patient, right?
Well, by the time you get to the top of the arc, that's when your pisiform should be able to connect to the tension line.
Right, but what I'm really asking is when I put my hands on, then I settle, then I go back on lower the body down, settle back. I'm connected there. You use that for more of a connection.
Okay, well.
Does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't to me, but it does to you. That's okay.
Okay. All right.
And I'll tell you why, but I'm going to tell you why it doesn't make sense to me. Because you are having to exert yourself up the arc then, and I don't have to because I'm using my mass to go down the hill.
Got it.
So that is what I found to be the better place. Okay, so let me ask you the questions that you asked me. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, the whole idea is to make it easier. Man, I mean, I've been hurting, man. I beat my body up badly in my life, and I just have it's just what it is, man. So, but the beauty in the whole thing is the icing on the cake is that, you've heard me like exercising before you adjust, and you have to get stretched. I mean, I used to do a half hour of stuff because I needed to be stretched out and relaxed. I could be ready, in minutes now because I can almost warm up on a patient by just arcing in, and and it's nice and easy and I'm relaxed. So it's a lot easier on me. It's a lot faster for me on my body, and I think it'll work great for everybody. And it's a nice, easy way to teach it. It's so simple for everybody to do that. So at the class that's coming up, I plan on having a class where I'm going to line up the tables, and we're all going to practice that arcing motion. And people will start moving stuff, and people will start popping those pisiforms. That's when they'll start cracking, going crap, pop, 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 which means you're rolling your pisiform. Okay, It doesn't mean the patient's moving. It means you're rolling the pisiform. And if you're rolling the pisiform, you're making motion between that lock position of placement to beyond that, because that's where they are. So if you create motion and that pisiform move, that's the game. Okay? That's the game. All
Hey,
right?
Russ.
Okay. Yeah, brother.
So you're not saying no wrist, right? You're saying just no arms.
I'm saying that if you want to be able to even think about moving your wrist and your arms, you need to get this down 100%.
I'm just saying sometimes you got to move your wrist, move your hand.
That's correct. That's
to get
correct.
that range of motion.
That's correct. But
Okay.
that is 100% correct. But I was
You don't want to force.
doing way too much of that,
Yeah.
and it beat me up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's not specific that way. It's not as specific. Anyway, all right, so we'll practice this. So anyway, listen. So I start my day. I told you it's easier. It's easier for me to stretch. It's easier for me to be relaxed, okay? It's easier for me to step into the room to know that I'm the first person and the last person, that it's a lot easier on my body and I can clear them and I'm going to have my strength, okay? And I also know that, and I've learned this too, is because I've tried to clear everybody completely, especially these people that are so locked up, and try to clear them completely in one go or two go or 50 goes. Okay. And what I found is that if you could quiet your mind and you could quiet your body and you can lean in and you can listen, you can clear so much more than trying to force it. Okay. And if you take a person only to where they allow you to take them, and you're able to feel that by connecting to them, you'll have amazing experiences in your practice. Those are my most amazing adjustments, is when I'm able to do that. Okay. I mean, it's emotional for me. It's not just something for them. When people, not just when they go, oh, I feel that right away, but I mean, I feel somebody, you feel what I call separation. Okay. When you could feel that separation, if you want to feel that separation, you need to have a very relaxed body. They have to be very relaxed. You can't overexcite the nervous system, and you have to take them beyond where they are. And if you can do that, okay, I believe that these steps that I've talked about tonight are integral to that. Integral to that. I can tell you from my direct experience. Okay, so I got a class coming up, and I think the environment in, I can't speak for any other group that has to teach, but I don't see us in next year having seminars like we did last year. I see me having classes again in my office, okay, and having 20 people there. Okay, so I can only do so many of those, I think that the people that come to those classes have an ability to, and I say this from my heart, not from my head, is an ability to change their practice, to change the way they feel about themselves and their mission in life, because that's what it's done for me. It's what it's done for me. Okay, I've had a lot of breakdowns and heartache for sure. Okay, I mean, I've been out on an island of a bone out of place to having a conversation that is just touching the surface about what I think about tonight, is what I have with you guys directly, or my patients and so forth. It's so far beyond the conversations that we're having in chiropractic today. We're still trying to point out where the nervous system is and learn the anatomy and the physiology. Imagine learning how to expand the human existence. Okay, that's what these classes go. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, I think there's 3 openings to it. Okay, 3 openings left would blow me away. Okay, so I'd love to help you. Really, I'd love to help you. Okay, and I see that my days of the big classes are not going to happen. I see that because of the COVID thing, and I see because I'm not interested in doing it anymore. I'm interested in passing on this information to whoever really wants to listen, and I know it's changed my practice. Okay, it's certainly changed my life that that I can do what I want to do. Thank God. Okay. All right. So have a nice night, and if you need me, just pick up the phone or email me, and I'm happy to help you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Huidong.